I am going to give you a link to this presentation at the end, so you don't have to worry about taking a lot of, pictures or screenshots or taking a lot of notes or anything like that. And while I'm thinking about it, at the end of the session, Ms. Cooksey is here helping me. She'll get all of the information together and get the certificates processed. So you need to make sure that you're here the whole time with us, engaging, and then at the end, she'll get that processed and you should get your PD certificate within 24 to 48 hours. So when you go back to the presentation later, and it's also being recorded, so you'll be able to find that on our YouTube channel. I wanted you to have quick links to some of the tools we're using. We're going to be looking at Canva and Jamboard and Mote and Loom and Accredible. I'm using Slido for the first time, so we'll see how this works. I saw it in a presentation a couple weeks ago, and I thought, well, that looks really cool. It's a good way to engage. You can do polls and word clouds and things like that. So we're going to give it a try, see how it works. And there's a couple of videos that I've embedded in this, and I use Screencast-O-Matic to do that. And let's see. So the first thing, the whole reason I wanted to do this subject was, at the beginning of the school year, there was a lot of discussion about, well, keep them engaged. And we were all like, well, what does that mean? What's your definition of student engagement? What does it look like? And I think even our administrators, they weren't really sure what they were asking for. And we weren't really sure how to address that and what it looked like, because a lot of times we got this. The kids came in, they pretended like they were listening, then they turned off their video and their audio, and they went off to check social media, to do a lot of gaming, to eat, to sleep, to not engage. Where we felt like we were over here, I knew what to do, but I really had no idea what to do. So we learned a lot of lessons, and I think none of us want to go back to that, kids in the classroom and online all at the same time, but we got a lot of really good experience with technology and a lot of tools that we can still use moving forward. So this is my first experience here with Slido. So what you want to do, you can, if you want to use your phone, you can use your phone and you can scan the QR code with that, or you can go to slido.com and you can put in this code. And in one word, how would you describe student engagement for 2020? How did it go over this past school year? Got chaotic. %50 involvement. Yep, I feel that. And it's supposed to create a word cloud, but if there's not too many of us, it might not happen. Active, interesting, very challenging. Not every student was engaged. Some would just sit there and say nothing. Definitely had that experience. I was in class, you didn't see me. Yeah, I heard that. Heard that a lot. Yeah, definitely frustrating, especially when you got to the point where they just weren't participating. Felt like I failed. Yeah, I think we kind of all had that. Those moments, definitely. Now, I'm going to step out of the presenter mode for a second, but I did want to kind of share what I see with Slido. If this is something that you want to try in your classroom, I think in a sense, it's kind of like Nearpod-ish, but what I can see on my dashboard, it has all of the things that you guys are putting in, how many people vote for it. I also have, and I think you can see this too, how many people are participating in this. So from a teacher perspective, if you wanted to kind of keep an eye on everybody participating, you can keep track of that. So it's kind of a neat little thing. I think from the free version, you could only add 3 questions in your presentation. So that's all I did. There's also supposed to be a section where I think you have the option for Q&A, and I really think this is a great thing for some of those students that they want to interrupt the whole process with questions. I think you can click on Q&A, and if you have a question, you can type that in. And I noticed that I have an option to look at audience Q&A, and then I can review the questions before everybody looks at them. So that's kind of neat. We'll see if that works at the end. Okay. So we've got a lot of things that happened, especially please mute and please unmute. That was a constant thing. Even with me, I taught a whole class on mute in the beginning. And I said the next day, why didn't you all tell me? They were like, well, okay, great. Okay, so we're going to move to the next slide. So when I was thinking about what does engagement mean, boy, I went down a rabbit hole with that. There are so many definitions, from, deep philosophical discussions to lists of what students should be doing. So I finally just settled on this definition that's from Promethean World. And there's the link to the article down here. So while there are multiple definitions around student engagement, there is a common theme among them. The shared concept is rooted in the idea that learning improves when students are curious, interested, and/or inspired. So that kind of drove my focus in how can we get them curious, keep them interested, and get them inspired to stay engaged with what we're doing. So when and how to engage students during the lesson. For that, we're going to look at collaboration. We're going to look at maintaining relationships. We all do that, getting to know you stuff at the beginning, but how do we keep those relationships going? And we're going to look at using feedback loops. And then we're going to look at keeping them engaged throughout the semester, even after that one specific lesson is done, by creating a badge system. So here's the first thing that we're going to look at: observing student work in real time. And I have done something similar to this with Google Slides by sharing a slide deck with everybody. But I kind of think Jamboard actually works a little bit easier. So for this section, I am using a book by Alice Keeler and Kimberly Matina that just came out called Teaching with Google Jamboard. And collaboration was actually one of the ways that I first saw the Jamboard being used, because it's basically a digital whiteboard. So students can write on it, the teacher can write on it, you can all share together at the same time. But there's a lot of really neat things that you can do. The activity that we're going to do together is actually 79. So there were 78 other different things that you could do before we even got to that one. So one of the challenges when working with students remotely, or even in a large group, is that it can be difficult to see what they're working on. So we have about 18, and when I looked at the how many people had signed up for it. We had about 40. So 18 is probably a more manageable group. But we're going to split into breakout rooms. And you all know when you're working with your students online and they all go into a breakout room, they kind of disappear, or they do disappear from your view. And you can pop into the breakout rooms. But what is happening when you're not in that breakout room with that group? When you have a Jamboard open, you can see in real time, whether you're in the breakout room or not, if the group is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you can communicate with them that way as well. So when you get your access to this slideshow, this right here is a link to Alice Keeler's site and gives you information on how to get that book. So some things to think about, and I'm just realizing I'm saying the word so way too many times. Need to think about that. All right. Before you send your students into a breakout room, and I think most of us do this, is teach your specific expectations for participation and behavior. It's a really good idea to create a rubric to guide them in what you expect the outcome to be, and designate different roles that need to be filled. Younger students may need to have their assigned role before they go into the group activity. So I want to kind of go back and forth here for just a minute. We're going to do a breakout room and we're going to go to this Jamboard, and you're going to have an assigned team and you're going to be working on that Jamboard. But before we do that, I wanted to go back and look at Canva. They have a ton of templates that are already made. So the first thing that I wanted us to have an opportunity to do is to go to Canva, and I'm going to put this link here in the chat. So if you click on that link, it will take you to the screen that we're looking at that has all of the different templates for the Jamboard. If you have an account, it may ask you to sign in, or it may ask you to create an account. I'm not really sure how it's going to look on your end. Since I'm already logged in, it took me straight to it. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of look through the different templates. I actually was watching a presentation through ISTE, and I thought, wait, I've seen all of those slides before, because they took them from the templates and used them in their presentation, which is fine because that's what they're there for. So if you wanted to do something like trying to find where this is kind of a neat one. A start, a stop, a continue. You could almost maybe use that like a KWL chart. When you pull up the template, you can click on the different elements. You can change what the wording is. You can change the directions. You can rearrange however you want it to be. When you want to use it for your Jamboard, though, what you'll have to do is come over here to this arrow. And I always go with what their suggested format is. You're going to download it as a PNG file. Then when you get to Jamboard, you'll upload that. So I'll just show you really quick what that looks like. So if I don't want to make any changes to this, you can also change the name of it up here, because once you click on that template, it becomes yours. I'm just going to call it KWL. download it. Close that out. And I'm going to come back over to the Jamboard. I have different teams set up in the Jamboard. I've got the directions there. That is one nice thing about the Jamboard is I feel like sometimes when I would send my kids into a breakout room, or I've even been in trainings and we've gone to the breakout room and we're like, what are we supposed to do? What did they say? So the directions are here with a little helpful tip. You can always add your own page. Everybody who has this link should have editing rights, so you should be able to do that. But to set the background, you just come right here to set background, and they have pre-made ones. But if you want to add your own picture, you just click on that, and then you are going to browse your computer. And I'm going to come over here to downloads, and there's that. Click on it and open. And then it's in there and it's great and it is ready to use for the students. The only thing about it is all of these little things right here are not movable, but you do have the sticky notes. Like this is the sticky note function right here. And you can be somewhat clever with it and add some different elements. You can also, the only thing that I don't like about this that you can do with Google Slides is I thought, okay, fine, well, I'll take these directions and slide them off the side. Well, that doesn't work like you can on a Google slide. So there are some downsides to it, but I think for the most part, it's a really great way for students to collaborate. So now I am going to Control Z all of this so Team 1 doesn't have that in there. And I want to give you an opportunity to just get in there and kind of play around with it and share some ideas. I know some people have maybe never used Canva before or Jamboard before, and some have. So just like when our students are in teams together working, you've got people who can share with each other. So I just want to make sure, are there any questions? I don't see any, and I know Miss Cooksey is doing a great job answering questions for me. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to come back over here and I'm going to share this link and I'm going to put it in the chat. So everybody will have access to the Jamboard. Then we're going to come over here and let's see here. We're going to go to breakout rooms. And we'll do 4, and we're going to automatically assign. So you're going to be thrown into a breakout room. I will pop in real quick each room and tell you what your team number is so that you know what slide to go to. That's probably going to be the easiest way to do that.
And you can also just tell them to look on whatever slide for the room number they're in.
Oh, okay. Well, that works even better.
It's easy to do that with adults, but children don't always follow directions.
I wasn't sure if they could see that. I was trying to think when I went into a breakout room, but if they can see that, that makes the most sense.
Yeah, if you've assigned them, it usually pops up with you're assigned to breakout room number whatever. So
okay, so I could say broadcast. I'll go to slide numbered for your breakout room. I'm going to assign to 1. any questions, you could throw them in the chat, or you can always put them in the Q&A with Slido. Then I did not feel like I'm not going to be doing that. I had put that we were going to take a break in here if we need it, but if we don't, we can keep on going. I've got another break worked in here. So make sure everybody's back. Getting there. This is one of the things that I like to do with my students is I would always teach from Google Slides. I would have my agenda and then everything I was going to do so that I wouldn't lose track of where I was. And I like to put timers in there. So I went and found through just a web search, a TV frame, and then found a YouTube video that's a timer and inserted it in the slides so that when it plays, we just have this happy little music playing to keep everybody kind of aware of how much time we have. So it's just kind of fun to do that. And then the kids know how long they have for whatever activity we're working on. We'll just take a quick check. If you want to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, let me know in the chat, or if you want to just keep moving on, we are going to take another one in a little bit. I don't know if we really need one yet. Keep moving. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so, oh, stop. There we go. This is where I realized that I didn't share all the information that I really wanted to. So we're going to come back over here to the Jamboard. One of the things that I wanted y'all to have an opportunity to do is that, especially with the pandemic and COVID and everything, there was a lot of people out there who created a lot of technology tools. So these are definitely not all that are out there. So if you have other ideas, and I love Team Retro got a template from Canva and got it up there, and used the sticky notes to kind of share some thoughts and ideas. And you have time to go back and do that later to the other teams, but this will remain something that you have access to. So if you are thinking about, oh, our team was talking about a certain tool that we really liked, throw it up there on a sticky note, or you can even add a text box so that you can go back and find it later. So we've got team 2 has got a slide and they've added some things. And then team 3 threw some ideas up there. And then we've got, this team was doing a really great job of sharing ideas with each other. And then we've got some blank ones. So you can see, if you haven't used Jamboard before, just some little things that you can do. You can click on this little arrow right here, and then that pulls down the different slides. When you get that, let's say, I'm going to go to the very end here. I wanted to add another team. I can click on these 3 dots. I can duplicate it, and now I've got another team. Or if I don't need all of those slides, then I can just delete them. And then I added this one at the end for us to kind of chat and just give y'all a moment. Is there any questions that you had or any thoughts that you wanted to share about what you talked about with, how many have you have used Jamboard before? I guess you could do a thumbs up. I can see some of your pictures. Some people have, some people haven't. We didn't really have it, I don't think, for the whole year, but when we got it, especially when I was going through the whole process of getting my online teacher certification. So that's a new certification for the state of Arkansas. There are 5 of us now that just went through the program at UCA, and UCA was the first one to send people through. So I had to do a 6-week long exam, and student interaction and student engagement was one of the things they were really looking for. And so I used Jamboard in that because I think it is a really great way for the students to communicate with each other in a lot of different ways. If they're in a breakout room, they can chat. If they are not really inclined to want to talk, then they can share their ideas with sticky notes. You can also add pictures and upload things from your computer, lots of different ways that you can interact. The nice thing about this from a teacher perspective is that if I can't get into every breakout room, or I need to go check on team 2, but I'm a little concerned about what team 3 is doing or not doing, I can have the Jamboard up and I can be flipping through the slides and seeing what they're doing, and I can interact with them as well. Like I can come, like I did with team 4, I can throw a sticky note out there, even though I'm not in the breakout room with you. I'm still here to help you, here to guide you, here to answer questions, and here to see, when we all come back together, is there a question that everyone had that I can address, maybe reteach, things like that. So there's a lot of really great things that you can do with Jamboard, and I highly recommend that if it's a tool you think that you would be interested in using with your students. I'm going to head back over here for just a second. This book right here, Teaching with Google Jamboard, she has a lot of great ideas. And if you click on here and go to Alice Keeler's website, she has a lot of great tech tools, and she's been someone that I follow her podcasts and things like that. Okay, so let's move. So think about student feedback. So let's head into number 2 here. When and how do you provide student feedback? So you can, if you didn't do the first one with us, you can scan the QR code with your phone, or you can join at slido.com. And I think Miss Cooksey put the link to that in the chat to make it a little bit easier.
It is in there complete with a typo and everything.
Okay. There it is. And I know for me as a teacher, feedback was challenging, especially when I was teaching at the middle school and had 100+ students. It was a little bit easier when I first started teaching, and I was teaching writing, and I had 3 different groups of 4th graders, and each class only had like 15 kids in it. That was my first year teaching, and I think that was just a blessing from God because I never had that again. But having those smaller classes, it was easier. So it's really a challenge when you have a large group of students and you always feel like maybe there's that one kid that maybe I don't communicate with as often as I want to. So we've got daily during class, immediately verbal, written if possible through Schoology and Dojo, every few days. So my question too is, has anyone used a feedback loop? And it was interesting when I was researching feedback loops that it's not just feedback between teachers and students. It relates to a lot of different systems in providing comments and replies. I think that's the big part where I got frustrated as a teacher, is you spend so much time providing feedback to your students, but the question is, are they reading it? Or are they listening to your message? And are they responding? Are they doing anything with that feedback? So we're going to look at a way that feedback can help maintain student relationships. So one way to maintain positive student-teacher relationships is increasing that one-on-one time with students, which of course is easier said than done. So we're going to look at feedback loops, which is a process that aims to move learning forward through feedback. And I like that it creates a two-way conversation between students and teachers. And we're looking at primarily an online situation, but obviously you can use this in a face-to-face classroom too, because it's hard to have a one-on-one conversation with every kid every day with every lesson. And even the tools that we're going to look at may not be perfect, but they will definitely give you some options to quickly communicate with your students. So what we're going to do, and these links right here are links to articles where I got this information from, and you can read a little bit more in detail. So we're going to look at Loom and Mote. And I have used these a little bit. I am by no means an expert at them, but I like how they operate. And Loom in particular, I really got into this with the internship that I'm doing at UAMS. This is what they use to communicate with each other. And one of the things that they use it for is they create their video and they send it in an email. So if somebody has a question about how to do a certain task or whatever it is, they're sending these video messages that are really quick and easy to do. And I thought, well, one of the things that we want to do with our students is give them access and experience with tools and communication skills that they're using in the real world, as we call it. So I like that Loom is both for education and being used in the corporate world too. So there's some different things that I added here that you're going to need if you don't already have them. So I did a screencast-o-matic video to kind of guide you through what to do. This link right here takes you to a YouTube video. I'm going to get through the ad here. Okay. So we're not going to watch it because both of these videos are about 10 minutes long, but I want you to see that they're there. This is New Ed Tech Classroom, and he does a lot of really great instructional videos for teachers, and he does one for Mote and one for Loom. Both of those are added here. So this logo for Moat takes you to his instructional video. This logo for Loom does the same thing. If you have not added either one of those and you've not used them before, this link right here will take you to the Chrome Web Store so that you can add them as an extension. Once you have created a free account with Loom, this link right here takes you to a Google form that you can fill out to get a free educator account, which gives you a few more tools. This right here, so what I like to do with Screencast-O-Matic, and I haven't figured out if I can do this with Loom or not, but if I create a video, I upload it to my YouTube channel that's attached to my school email, my Google account. Then I make it so that it's unpublished, but anybody with the link can watch it. And it's really easy then for me to insert videos into my slides. Some of the kids are excellent at watching itty bitty tiny things because they're used to doing that on their screens. If you use a YouTube video, they can watch it just like this, or they can click on YouTube and go straight to YouTube, or they can click on full screen and make it full screen. So I'll just play this. It's, I think, a couple minutes that shows you how to go add those extensions. And that's one thing that happens. If you go large screen, it's hard to, there we go.
And we don't have any sound.
Oh,
okay. I was wondering if it was just me or not, but yeah, we don't have sound on that.
Well, that's not good at all. I wonder why it's like that. Okay, well, I'm just going to show you what to do. It's really easy. If you've ever added an extension before, you're going to click on the Chrome Web Store and then type in what you're looking for, like Loom. And then you click on this, and I've already got it, so it would say remove. And that's the nice thing too. If you download an extension, you're like, oh, this didn't do what I wanted. It's easy to take it off. So you would just add it. One of the things that I did was there's this little puzzle piece right here. And when you click on that, that is all of your extensions. And so when I added Loom and Moat, I clicked on the little pins right here, which put it then in this bar up here so that I can find it really easy. That's basically what I said in the video. But that's disappointing that this sound didn't work, but that's okay. Thank you for letting me know that. Okay, so take a few minutes to go ahead and download those tools, because I want you to get an opportunity to play with them and ask questions, and then to see what they can do in providing a loop, a feedback loop between you and your students. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a 5-minute break here. If you need to run, get a drink of water or something like that, you can go do that. And then that way, if you're having any problems with downloading either one of those, then I can help you. And I see a question for what is Moat. So Moat is an audio recorder. It lets you talk to your students through an audio recording. You can record a message to them and they can record it back. And I'll show you what that looks like here. And Loom is a video. And we'll get a chance to play with those here in just a few minutes. I'm going to start our timer and we'll come back in 5 minutes. I want to take some time, if you haven't used Mote before, how you can use it with your students. So these are step-by-step directions on how you can add Mote to Google Slides. And this is when you create your, or add that extension and create your account, then it gives you a little welcome slide like this, and it'll show you some tutorial templates on how to do your first Mote, how to try Mote for slides, and you can even try Mote for forms, which I have not done yet, which looks interesting. To make it really easy though, the easiest way to start with Mote, if you haven't used it before, is using it with Google Docs. So I already have one created over here, but I'll show you how I did that. So I'm just going to type just a simple sentence. And then I'm going to highlight what I want to comment on. And I'm going to come up here to insert and then comment. And once you've added that extension, and what I discovered earlier today when I was playing around with this is I had to add it to my UCA account. I had to refresh the screen once I added the extension, and then it popped up because before that I wasn't getting this part. So if I have a student who is working on an assignment and they're doing it in a Google Doc, then I can highlight what they've done and do insert comments, which you can also do insert comment here. Then click on Mote, and then it automatically starts recording. So that's the one thing to remember is as soon as you click that, it starts recording. If you don't want to keep that recording, you can do cancel and it wipes it out. But if you want to keep it, then this is an example of how to leave a Mote voice note. And then click done. You can edit it if you need to go back. That's how to leave a Mote voice note. So it's fine the way I want it. So I'm going to click exit. Then I can click comment. And here's what I have discovered with this. It said to click in that box, and that's for me, it wouldn't work until I clicked comment, and then it looked like this. So the student would see this, and they would log into their document and say, okay, well, the teacher's left me a message, and they can listen to the message. If this is where I think we really need to do some teaching with our students and our expectations. And that's going to lead us to the last thing that we're going to look at is badges to try and encourage them. This is, I've left comments before, and I don't know half the time if they even look at them, or I can't get them to respond to me. They'll just click this and then it disappears. So what I want them to do is respond back, because in a feedback loop, instead of it being a one-way highway, I'm the teacher, I've told you this, maybe you'll do it, maybe you won't, but we're going to move on to the next thing. With a feedback loop, I'm giving you an opportunity or a suggestion or, hey, you did a great job, something, and now I want you to respond back to me. Tell me where you're struggling, or maybe you don't understand the feedback that I gave you. So then they can click on these purple dots right here, and they can reply to me, and they can answer in there. I thought they could do their own note, but well, that's what that is. Okay, so this is my note. And then when they click on that, then they're listening to mine. Okay, then they can reply here. I'm still playing around with this, trying to figure out why it's not working exactly the way I want, but that's what it should do. And that is why I wanted to make sure that you had access to that video, because that new ed tech guy knows more how to use this than I do. I really wanted to just kind of present this and give you an opportunity to play with it. And if anybody has used this and has some tips and tricks on how to make it work, please share with us. Now, the thing I love about Loom is it is a screencast tool that you can use. So if I wanted to do a screencast of this, I would click on Loom, and it's going to let me do some different things that are kind of nice. You don't necessarily have to show your picture if you don't want to, and you can choose that from up here. You can do screen and camera. Okay, well, that's great. There's the little camera up there. And I want to continue. It may not work since I'm doing the Zoom meeting at the same time. That might be an issue. So you might have to think about that, but you can do screen and camera only. One of the things that attracted me to Loom is that when I do a video for my students with Screencastify, I don't know if they've watched the videos or not, but with Loom, when you go to that site, you can actually see who has watched it and when. And you can also do a quick video and send it to your students through an email, which is a really nice way to communicate. And you can also use it with coworkers, or even if you find a really neat link for some kind of app that you want to share with an administrator, you can click up here and do the quick video, embed it in an email, and send it. And sometimes people might be more willing to just watch a video and understand what you're saying as opposed to reading what you put. So you can pick the screen and share, and then it's going to give you a countdown, and then you can do your video and talk about whatever you would like to talk about. And then when you're done down here, you click on the check mark, and then the video is finished. And I know Miss Cooksey is better at this than me, because she sent me a Loom, and I was like, well, what is this? That's pretty cool. So I learned something from her, and now I'm using it at UAMS and getting an opportunity to play with it more. So once you get your video, here's another thing that's really cool about Loom. You can also set up a team. So if you had a group of students who are working on a project and they're all doing different videos, then you can set up a team. You have personal, you have settings, you have all different kinds of things that you can look at. This is another thing that was interesting, was a call to action. And you can if you do a call to action, it gives you an opportunity to create whatever you want them to do. So if I have done a video on how to, let's say, add this Mote extension, and I show you how to do it, and I want to give you access to that link to now go do it, then I could post the link there. And then that way, when they get done watching the video, they have access to the link. So that is definitely an added benefit over Screencastify and Screencast-O-Matic. You can also, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to cancel that. I can comment on the videos, and I'm trying to find out where there we go. And if I share the video, then I can see who has watched it, which is, like I said, really nice with your students, just to see, have they watched it? Have they not? You can send it in an email, you can share it in Gmail, you could share it on Facebook or whatever. You can embed it. I tried that with my presentation, and that's not where I did it. Hello, everyone. No. Oh, I know where it is. I think it's with the badges. You can also, going back to Mote, so this is what I did. You can, in Google Slides, you can do the same thing by doing comments. So if you have students who are working on a project and you want to give them feedback, you can do it that way, or you can just, there's another website that I've used, I think it's like voicerecording.com, and you can record a video, then you have to download it and upload it. With Mote, you can go ahead and do a really quick audio, and the kids just click on it.
Still need a little bit of help adding these extensions? Check out the video on the TV.
So that's
Let me know if you have
another added benefit to Mote, that you can use it 2 different ways. All right, does anybody have any questions? Yes, the playback speeds are nice too. I like being able to do that. It speeds it up a little bit, makes it go a little bit faster. Okay, let's see here. So here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to take some time to play with this, because I kind of threw a bunch of stuff out at you. And like I said, I'm still trying to figure out some of the things. Yesterday, I added a Mote to the Jamboard, and today it disappeared. So I'm not really sure exactly what happened with that, but I figure if I did it once, there's got to be a way to do it again. So we're going to go back into the same breakout rooms. And this is what I would like you to do. I'd like you to take some time. And if you, I know a couple of you were concerned with losing connection to the Meet. If you can, if you leave the Meet, or I keep saying Meet because that's what we did at school. If you leave the Zoom meeting, we can let you back in again if you want to go ahead and add these extensions. That way you get an opportunity to play with it, because I'd like you to be able to do that while we're all here together, where I can answer questions and help you. Ms. Cooksey might be able to as well, and your teammates in your breakout room. And if you have other tools that you have used that are similar to this, then maybe we can have, you know, a conversation about some of the pros and cons with both of those. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in your breakout rooms and you're going to add the Google Chrome extensions. Then choose a Google product that you like to use, whether it's Google Slides or a Google Doc. Add the extension and then just play around with it a little bit and see how it would work between you and your students. Or you could even create a new doc and share it with your teammates, and then maybe you can see how messaging back and forth with Mote and Loom works. So we can kind of work some of those kinks out before we get in the classroom with the students. So that's the plan. Does anybody have any questions about that? Like somebody said they use it with parents too. I can see that would be a great tool to communicate with parents. That's a great idea. I didn't think about that. I was just thinking about students. Okay, if there's no questions, then we're going to go back into the same breakout rooms, and I will pop back in to see if there's anything I can help you with, answer questions, anything like that. We're going to take 15 minutes. I'm going to set the timer this time and open the breakout rooms. Back, Miss Cooksey and I were looking at some different ways that, because I know one of the concerns was being able to use Mote and Loom with your LMSs, especially Schoology. So Ms. Cooksey put, this is the link to using Loom with Schoology, right? Is that the link you put in there?
Yes.
Okay. And then we were,
the Mote one was sketchy and wasn't letting me in.
yeah, and Mote maybe, so here's my thought about Schoology, and I'm just, since I'm not going back to Pulaski County next year, they just turned off my teacher email and access to everything this week, or I would try and experiment with it. But I know that, and we use Schoology too. So if I assigned a Google Doc assignment to my kids and posted it in Schoology where they got their own copy, as soon as they open that document, it automatically saved to their Google Drive, so that they no longer had to actually complete the assignment in Schoology. They could go into their Google Drive where it was a little bit easier to see. And I'm curious, if you did that and had the Mote extension, if you would be able to communicate with them that way, because it does look like in researching it that there were some difficulties as far back as February for teachers using Mote through Schoology, and I haven't seen anything. And Miss Cooksey and I both tried to access the link where it was I think it was like a help FAQ type situation with Mote, and we couldn't access it. So, but there is several videos out there if you Google it using Loom with Schoology. So it looks like that is a lot more user friendly than trying to use Mote. But there is, and I'm going to put this link in here. This is another author that I really like, Casey Bell, and she has a blog post that is 15 ways to use Mote in the classroom. So that might give you some different ways to use it. All right, did anybody have any other questions, any comments?
And I do want to share a workaround. We were talking about using Loom to screen share something. You can also do that privately with a student, because you can share it just to a specific email address so that it's not public for anyone to be able to see, and provide students feedback that way. It does have a comment feature as well. So if you recorded what you would like to say and share with their assignment, then they could then comment back on the video that you've shared with them.
And then that way you've got that feedback loop going, and you don't have to, the students don't have to feel, I guess, shy or nervous or embarrassed if that feedback is directed at them. It's only, they're the only ones that are going to see it. Okay. I figured as I was moving through this that this would probably be what happened. So we're at 3:42, and I did want to kind of touch on the digital badge system. This is something that I think is a really neat tool and a way to keep that engagement going with students. So we've got our last question here with Slido. So how many of you have used a digital badge system with your students? So far, the no's have it. We've got a few that have. Awesome. Got 90% no. Maybe a couple more minutes to answer that poll. Who has used badge systems? All right. So this is what I have found about digital badges. And I saw this last year. The dog is being cranky. So I went to a training last summer and I saw this whole concept of digital badges. And I really wanted to do that with my students, but it never really worked out exactly the way I wanted it. As an East teacher, I thought, because I was running, as we all were, I just didn't have time to sit down and design all of this. It is, I think, a little bit of work in the beginning, but once you kind of get it figured out, then it's really a neat tool. So first of all, what is a digital badge? It's an image that represents an accomplishment or a skill achieved by a student or a stakeholder, just like, you know, I've got my level 1 certified Google educator. So that badge I like to attach to my emails because it's an accomplishment I'm proud of. And I don't have this written anywhere in the presentation, but when I was talking to my students about doing a digital badge program, one of the questions that they asked was, well, can we take our badges and attach them to our emails like you teachers do? And I said, you know, that's a really great idea. And that was as far as that got. But I really think that if they had that opportunity to take some of the badges that they've earned for a skill that they've accomplished, there might be a little bit more buy-in, because the whole point of the badges from my perspective with this presentation is we have engaged with our students through collaboration. We have continued to maintain our relationships and getting them to engage with the activities we're asking them to do by creating feedback loops where it's not just a one-way street for feedback. And now we're giving them something tangible that they're working towards. There's a really great book that I found through ISTE that is, I was thinking I put it on here, but maybe I didn't. Nope, it's in the sources at the end. I think his name is Brad Flickinger, and he wrote it in 2016. So a lot of the technology is not necessarily, you know, 2021 standards or even really still available, but the process is there. And one of the things that he talks about with digital badges is gamification. And I'll be honest, I've kind of fought that whole concept because I thought, I'm not turning my classroom into one giant video game. So I've got two things that I'm doing here. This is a Loom video that I did and embedded in the Google Slides, but it's also reading the section of what he says about badges and gamification that I think is worth listening to.
So how do badges engage students long term? Let's also look at the term gamification. That concept has been around for a long time, but wasn't largely used until 2002. This next reading is from Brad Flickinger's book, Reward Learning with Badges, in this section on his inspiration for creating a badge system in his classroom. He says when he first heard the term gamification, he panicked, thinking that people wanted to turn his classroom into a video game. But he soon found out that that was not the case. Gamification, as applied to education, applies video game design concepts to educational concepts. Some of
Oh,
the most commonly
okay.
applied concepts include the idea of charting progress.
It looks like we're having problems with the audio again. So it's there for you to go back and listen to, because I know we're going to run out of time. But basically, what he was saying with gamification is that you're not turning your classroom into a video game. But one of the things that keeps kids engaged in the video game is earning achievements, moving through levels. So taking your lessons and creating them more in that type of format. So there's a link to that book. There's also a link to 5 awesome resources for badges in the classroom. And there's also this infographic that I thought this was really an interesting way of doing this. So let's say you're teaching a particular topic. There are different levels. So your small learning chunks and quick assessment turnaround, because they either achieve that badge or not. Then there's the different levels. And then once they accomplish all 6, then they get the big achievement badge. I used Classcraft for that for a little while, and that really became overwhelming and expensive, because to get really anywhere with what my kids wanted to do, I couldn't afford it. But there is a source that I've given you guys that you can create your own badges. So when you come over here, there's Credible lets you design badges. This link right here, Digital Badges, takes you to a curated website that has a ton of articles, resources, and things like that about how to create a badge system, why. Credible, I'm just going to click right here on the badge designer, and it will take you here, and then you can go to this website where you can create your own badges. And it's really pretty easy. You just kind of take a shape, and then there it is. And then you can add text, you can add images, you can create your own badges. And the kids really like it. And it keeps them engaged after the lesson. I think part of it is the competitiveness of it. If you've got a kid who is, go back and look at this infographic. If their friend is at this level or that level and they're still down here, then they're going to work harder to get to that next level. And of course, there, just like everything, there's going to be some downsides to that. How do you keep them from cheating? How does all of that work? And of course, it kind of is outside the scope of our time together. But as we get through, I'm going to go ahead, and we're not going to obviously do another breakout room because we're not going to have time for that. And we've got some questions, and I'll head back over there in a second. This is, and I need to give you this now, this is the link to the presentation so that you can get to it. That way, you can go back and explore the digital badge portion of that on your own. And my email address is also here. So you can always email me. In fact, this is a link right here. If you click on this, it will open your email and you can send me an email. Got one person to come in. So that way, if you have any questions or any way I can help, be glad to do that. And I also highly encourage you, if you're interested in an online degree through UCA, it was a wonderful experience, so much so that the tentative plan now is for me to go back and teach with them in their grad school in the instructional technology department in the fall. All right, so that was really quick there at the end about badges, but does anybody have any last minute questions? You can throw it in the chat. And Ms. Cooksey also it's in my head to remind you all that as soon as our session is done, she'll process the paperwork and you should have your digital or your professional development certificate within the next 24 to 48 hours, and that will come to you through the email that you signed up for the session with. All right, so if there aren't any questions, thank you for coming. I really appreciated you spending a couple hours with us this afternoon and investing in your kids for the fall and ways to engage them and keep them engaged. And please reach out anytime you have questions. Glad to help, give you guidance or whatever I can do. Thanks for coming.